All right, we have a special guest with us today. Sorry, no Bo, co-host Bo is not here. He has a modeling shoot. You know, these models and actors. He was like, "Oh, I can't. I thought I'd be done in time," and so must be a tough life to be a model and get paid to stand there and pose. But so sorry he's not here. But we do have a very special guest, Jeff Leach. You just had a movie premiere on Hulu this past Friday, Predator: Killer of Killers. Can you talk about that a little bit? That's exciting. I heard it did very well too. I mean, as far as like, there's a lot of buzz around it for Hulu.
Yeah, it's done incredibly well. First of all, hello. I'm sorry Bo's not here, but of the two of you, I think you are the most attractive. So
I get that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I put it on my rider, actually. I'm glad the PR agent put that through. I said, I don't want Bo, actually. If he could be absent, that would make me a lot happier. But yes,
we got our clip. So
there you go. Yeah. Predator: Killer of Killers. Incredible. I'm assuming you haven't yet seen it. You haven't been fortunate enough to
not
see
yet.
it.
I'm going to see it, though. Yeah,
man, it's so good. If you're a Predator fan, if you're a fan of the franchise, then you got to check it out. Also, if you were lucky enough to see the previous film, Predator: Prey, by director Dan Trachtenberg, he's obviously been signed up to do this movie as well, this animated movie. And I believe there's another one that's on IMDb already announced, Predator: Badlands, which will be coming out maybe next year. I'm not sure what the release date is. So I guess he has a trio of films. But this one is quite exciting for the fans of the Predator franchise because it kind of taps into Predator characters over the course of human history. So it shows that whilst we thought that the Predator we've engaged with, with Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the day, fighting through the jungle, or the last film, which showed a Native American character, obviously from quite a few years ago, engaging with a Predator character. This one shows three very starkly different periods of history. So you have a Viking period around 800 AD. Then you have the Japanese shogunate era, and then you also have World War I as well. So it's really exciting. The fans have been calling for this kind of like almost prequel anthology mashup that shows all these different time periods, and I'm very grateful that I got to play a character in this movie because it's such a small cast. It's very very selective cast. We have some pretty epic deaths that go on during the film as well. In fact, my character in particular, spoiler alert, I think has one of the most beautiful deaths of all. So keep an eye out for him. And I play Ivar, who is a gigantic Viking warrior with a very deep voice. Ivar. He looks a bit like you, actually. He's got a bald head and a very nice, powerful beard, longer than yours, but
yeah, mine's not very
gorgeous.
powerful.
Well, I mean,
yeah,
it's growing. So you're working towards it. When you start doing the modeling like Bo, you'll grow it out a little bit, get it braided up, put a few beads in it. Who knows?
Yeah, it'd be nice. It's funny. I was looking at some of your stand-up clips online, and very funny, Jeff Leach, and we were on our morning show. So the dynamic of our podcast is that I've been hosting a morning show. I've been on a morning show for 18 years, syndicated morning show out of North Carolina. And so a radio background and, still doing that. I love it. And then Bo is an actor and then obviously does some modeling as well. So he kind of asked.
Hand model, yeah.
Yeah. It's just his left hand. His right hand is actually very hard to look at. But
he keeps the right hand for OnlyFans. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, yeah. And so we were just talking today on the morning show. I don't know how we got onto it. I mean, I'm sure just different conversations you find this, but somehow we got talking about if women find large testicles or balls attractive.
Oh wow, this is taking a left turn. I wasn't expecting this. Okay, go ahead. Yeah. Large balls. Okay.
So we're talking about today.
What did you deduce?
Well, all the guys on the show are like, I don't think so. I mean, I hope not. It's like, if anything, I don't want them to get any. I don't want them to start drooping. That will happen, and with gravity and time, that does happen. And then we asked Katie. She's the co-host on the show. It's Jared and Katie in the morning, and she's like, "That's never been like a thing. Like, I mean, I guess I'm glad they're there, but I'm not attracted to them." But then another guy on the show said that his wife called in. This was shocking. Said that she likes to, while they're watching a movie, maybe Predator: Killer of Killers, put her head on his chest, and she cups his balls while they're watching TV. And I'm like, other than that, no one else was about finding it attractive. She's like, I don't think they're attractive. It's just like a comfort thing. She holds his sack. Thought it was odd.
It sounds very supportive. I mean, what a supportive relationship.
If anything, the most supportive, right? So, but today, sorry, it took a long time to get to. There was a clip of you doing some crowd work, and you're talking to some guy that's in his 80s about his long balls. That's where I've got.
That was the longest setup I've ever had for one of my bits. And it came off the back of a 10-minute story about ball discussion. Okay, yes. Yeah, in my comedy special, I did a comedy special about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, which I released online. We were during the SAG strikes at that time, so I didn't want to sell it to a network. So I put it out online for free against all the advice I got from all of my team and all of my reps. I just wanted people to have it during a time when we didn't really have a lot and people were struggling a little bit. And one of the facets of that stand-up comedy spectacular, because it's not a special, because there's a lot more than just stand-up in it. We've got stand-up, crowd work, an animated segment where I voice all 5 characters, a rap music video, a dramatic dialogue that runs throughout the entire thing between me and my own ego as I kind of say goodbye to my ego. But yes, at the end in the crowd work section, there was a more mature gentleman, a silver fox, if you will, sitting at the front of the show. And he was wearing a pair of very short khaki shorts. And we were discussing aging bodies. And I was pretty certain I could see a weasel poking out the bottom of those shorts. Turns out it was just his left nut. So, yes, I do occasionally pick on the audience, but only if they're deserving of it. If you're flashing a ball at me, I'm going to pick up on it. I mean, unfortunately will not cup it like that supportive wife.
Yeah, no, it's like, so it's funny because like, morning shows get a rap, or sometimes a bad rap.
How low are your balls, dude? Where do they sit these days?
I'm 45 and they're pretty taut, man. I mean, unless I've been playing basketball or something, or like really hot, they're I don't see a lot of droopage yet. They're kind of where they've been for probably as an adult. I don't know.
I'm 41, so I'm just behind you. So I'm assuming that mine and yours they've got to be of a reasonably similar depth, But is the elasticity of your skin and mine the same? That's really what it comes down to. You're talking about weight, but I think it's really down to skin elasticity. And I moisturize. So if you're not moisturizing and keeping those things supple.
Well, I do take a lot of baths. I don't know if that's going to make it droop more.
Oh, that's probably good. Yeah, that's probably good. I imagine keeps them, keeps them moist.
They're floating.
I don't know.
At least they're floating.
They're moving upwards at least when you're laying down in water. So that's always a good thing, right? Yeah.
And our morning show doesn't do a lot of talk about it sounds like it. It just so happened that
I can tell you save all the testicle discussion for this podcast, and I'm the lucky recipient. So thank you.
That's right. Well, how does something like, for example, for you, because you do lots of voiceover work, and of course we got to get into Call of Duty at some point because there's millions of fans out there that are like, you didn't ask about it, Ghost and all that. And I actually have a super nerd question that I can't wait to ask you.
Okay.
That one of
I've got plenty of super nerd answers for you. I'm ready.
Okay. So, but like, how, because this is what Bo would be asking, because he likes the nitty gritty, and I do. I find it fascinating too. How does someone like you, where you've been acting for a long time, you're doing stand up, you do a lot of voiceover work, as well as, live action acting as well. But like, how does something go from concept in your experience to Hulu, and you get a premiere date, and how do you become a part or attached to these projects? Like, are you auditioning specifically for animation? Like, how does that work? Because you built up such a resume. Are you auditioning still for these things, or they say, "Hey, we want him"? And
I am, yeah. There's some jobs occasionally that you get a requested audition, or actually, there's been a few projects in the last couple of years where I've been fortunate enough where people have just offered me roles because if they've seen me in something else, or they've seen my work, or they've worked with me on a previous project. But generally, as a SAG-AFTRA union actor, I'm a union man. You have to audition. My various voice agents will send me different auditions for different things, whether it's commercial, narrative, or animation. Video game and animation. And I do a couple of reads, and hopefully they like it. The casting director at the other end of the booth enjoys it enough to offer me a role. That's generally how it goes. With this particular project, that was the process. In fact, there was a little interesting backstory. Dan Trachtenberg, the director, who obviously did this movie and the other Prey movies, the other Predator movies that I described. But he also has done 10 Cloverfield Lane. He's directed The Boys. He's directed Stranger Things. This guy is blowing up. He's doing incredibly well. He actually blew up almost, I think it's about 12 or 13 years ago, by making a fanfic film of Portal, the video game Portal. If you remember the old school video game where you shoot on one wall and shoot on another wall, you can kind of jump through one portal and come out the other. It's a puzzle exploration game with obviously a backstory, which gives you a little bit of an RPG feel. But he made that blew up, became the biggest, the most watched short film on YouTube. And off the back, that created this incredible, glistening Hollywood career for him. And he's such a creative guy, Dan. We actually met almost 15 years ago. I was doing some stand-up at the very beginning of my stand-up career. In fact, I was barely even a fully fledged stand-up at that point for a big advertising company in Cannes Film Festival. And Dan was one of the directors signed to their agency. And he flew out with a bunch of their directors. I entertained them all, basically just roasting all of these very important people, producers and directors around a table in Cannes. Whilst we were all, back when I used to drink, we were all a little rosé tipsy at that point, because that's what everyone drinks in Cannes. And when I auditioned for this role, I got cast. And then Dan, he didn't know my name. He never listens to any of the names, which a lot of directors do this. They don't want to know who the actor is. They don't ask you to slate your name. So he heard the read and he was like, "That's my Ivar. He's perfect. This guy is the best actor out of the lot." And then once he cast me, a little bit down the line, he reached out to me on Twitter and he was like, "Hey, did you do a thing like a decade ago or so in Cannes? Was that you?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's me, man." And he's like, I just remembered when he jumped on the session actually when I went into the recording booth and was like, "Hey man, I just wanted to tell you two things. One, I remembered all of those years ago because you were very funny back then, and I really enjoyed that trip to Cannes." And he said, "And also I wanted you to know that I cast you before I knew it was you. I just heard the Ivar voice and I was like, you're perfect. I wanted you to know there was no nepotism involved in the decision, which I would have been happy if there was a bit of nepotism involved.
For real, right?
I'm waiting to get jobs because my daddy's famous. Unfortunately, my daddy is dead, so it doesn't work like that. But
so is mine.
Yeah, there you go. And he wasn't famous for anything in particular in the entertainment industry necessarily, but you get what I'm saying. So so it was really beautiful to get cast in a project with a director who I'd already met over a decade ago, who cast me because of the voice that I did rather than because he knew me. And that made me, that made me feel really good. But for the most part, I just have to audition like anyone else. It's just like on-screen auditions. I'm not quite yet at the status where people just call me up all the time and go, "We need Jeff Leach," but I hope to be there soon enough. That's the plan, man.
And for you, and what an incredible story. I mean, what are the chances, right? What a small world. And
it's a small world, dude. And this is it. I mean, look, if you're dedicated to your creative process, this is how I look at it in anything, whether it's the world of podcasting, the world of voice acting, on-camera acting, stand-up comedy. It could be patisserie, baking, like whatever you're into. If you really focus on the craft of it, I do believe that good work begets more work. You know what I mean? I do believe that it leads to that. And also I think the cream rises to the top in any industry to some extent, especially in the creative arts industries. If you're really passionate about what you're doing and why you're doing it, which I don't know if you're aware of this, but voiceover work does not pay very well. It's not something that actors make very much money at all on. In fact, the money has been pretty poor for a while. As a general rule, especially compared to on-camera actors,
Well, right.
So you do voice acting because you really love doing voice acting. I really love doing different characters, like getting to play a 7-foot Viking. Is amazing because I'm 6.5 foot and I'm definitely not Icelandic, so I probably would never get to play that character necessarily. So getting to play something like that is amazing. In the same way, playing Ghost was beautiful for me because whilst I have lots of ties to the military and I do a lot of work with the US vets here in the US, and an ambassador for a number of veteran-based charities, or veteran-skewed charities, I should say. I have never served in the military. My grandfather did, I didn't. So it was exciting to get to play characters like that as well, who do things that I have never done and am very unlikely to do. But I also try and embrace a little bit of all of those different characters into my real life, including, like I say, my work with the vets or CQB courses, advanced firearms courses. I really want to become the character, even though I'm only doing maybe a day or two sessions in the booth. I still think it's important as an actor to know who you're portraying.
Right, you get more depth to it. So
100%.
I have a million different questions just based on what you said. Is sparked off some different things. I'm trying to think the best way to go forward with it. But
I think
guess
you should just ask all 1 million questions, and then I'll systematically go through and answer them.
Okay, yeah, and I'll do a long setup like I did for that one about the ball.
Yeah.
So
10 minutes sounds great.
You think Rogan takes 3 hours? This is going to be long. No, but
he takes 3 hours because they all smoke weed on it. That's why, and they're all just like
yeah,
lazy.
exactly.
Like, halfway through, it's just like, what were we talking about? I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Every episode has at least, they say at least 3 times. What are we talking about again?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
like I find it fascinating, and you've seen this firsthand with Call of Duty, how some of these video game franchises, when they release a new game, it's like a movie premiere, and then the amount of money that's dumped into not only the production but also purchasing. I can't remember what it was. A Call of Duty that came out one time, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it was like, oh, this first weekend it was released, it made $300 million in sales.
Oh yeah,
whatever.
yeah. There were, I mean, the games that I was in, Modern Warfare 2019, Call of Duty Mobile, and Warzone 1. This was at the beginning of the pandemic as well. So we had at one point 150 million players worldwide, which is insanity. You know, I think my skin, my Ghost skin, when it first launched, raised hundreds of millions of dollars on that first day. Hundreds of millions of dollars.
Wow.
I didn't see any of that. I mean, I probably got that $7,500 for the whole job. Do you know what I mean? That's like how it works. As I say, you don't do it for the money. You do it for the love of creating these characters and being part of a fantastic franchise.
Or you can go ahead next time and say, I want back-end money. So I'll take none for the voiceover. I'll take the back-end. And I'll take 1% of the skin money. How about that?
Yeah. Good luck getting that deal. If you listen, if you can get that deal for me, then you can be my agent. But yeah, so it's but you know, I think that you know, the passion of taking on those roles, launching into different characters across the board, you know, that really tap into different parts of me. That's what is exciting for me. Do you know what I mean? It's never about money.
It's gonna be wild too that hundreds of millions, and of course there's been millions just from some of your podcast or interview clips, and obviously stand-up comedy clips, millions and millions. But to think that hundreds of millions of people have heard your voice, that's probably kind of hard to compute.
No, I love it.
Yeah. No, I love it, but how do you even? It's surreal.
Yeah, I don't know. I got used to it now. I think I'm there. Look, there's a hierarchy in every industry, you know, and within the we're not talking about my on-camera work, behind the scenes, you know, or sorry, in the booth, I should say, as a voice actor. I am definitely now feeling the movement from this is a name some people know, into a place of, this is now an established voice acting talent. You know, I've done enough roles in enough major franchises, including obviously Call of Duty, but you know, Harry Potter, Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, Total War, Warhammer 40,000. Obviously, just now earlier this year, I did Avowed and Throne and Liberty. At the end of this month, I have Hideo Kojima's new game, Death Stranding 2. I'll be in that alongside Norman Reedus and Elle Fanning. So there's like major franchises now, and once you get to that stage that you kind of ticked the box, you know, Street Fighter, I did Street Fighter 6.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Once you start doing all these things, fortunately, it's a small enough industry that people go, oh, okay, this guy's kind of excelling. He's getting booked on lots of things, and also my characters are so different. You know, Jack the Ripper on my Netflix series Record of Ragnarok, or Yelki the Swifting on Ishira on Hulu, or Ivar on the movie on Hulu, Predator Killer of Killers, or Call of Duty, Ghost. These characters sound so different. And that's what's exciting for me about that industry. Unlike on camera, where I can kind of portray, yes, a multitude of different characters, but I'm kind of limited by my physical aesthetic. You know, I am a 6'4" guy, so playing a cutesy little nerdy guy, not really the roles I'm picking up on camera. However, in Death Stranding 2, my character is a little nerdy. He is a little sweet and a little soft, and I love that. I love that I get to play something that's not aesthetically, at least, me. You know, that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, Bo, we're so glad isn't here. You know, he said that's what he's seen, because he doesn't do voice work, but he does.
Right.
You know, and he said, it was weird for him to realize initially when he got into acting was like, you're basically a catalog of human beings. And they're like, all right, for this role on screen, we need someone who's between 5'10" and 6 foot, blonde hair.
Right.
Or like for me, 5'9", 245, maybe more. And he said, it's just so weird. It's like you're almost
bearded, 12-inch penis. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So you're sort of limited to certain roles.
But like 20-year-old balls, though, not 45-year-old
20-year-old. Yeah, super tight. If anything, they're internal at this point. They're still inside.
Really? They haven't dropped.
Barely even dropped. That's what I've heard. I've heard that some of those baths. It's because you're laying on your back the whole time. They just slip back inside. You know that bit where you get that floating ball where it disappears back inside the cavity inside your pelvis.
Yeah.
Every man has.
It has.
It's almost a permanent state of being.
All the time. It's just an empty sack. So I mean, what can you do? All right. So you said you named 4 characters just now, I believe. 4 very diverse characters. I have to ask you, can you do a little bit of each character?
Sure. Yeah. So we have so Jack the Ripper. If in Record of Ragnarok, the whole premise of the show is this is a Japanese anime that's dubbed over in the US, and effectively we're fighting. Human characters go up against gods and demigods to fight for the right for humanity to survive. And he's twisted. Jack the Ripper is quite a flamboyant chap, and I say, mind a cup of tea before I rip your insides from your guts. He's quite a crazy chap. Maybe I could be a Joker one day in the future. I'd love to do that. Whereas obviously Ghost from Call of Duty, that channels a certain part of myself. He's very much where I get angry. So me as Jeff Leach, when I get angry, I get gritty. I get vocal, quite bassy in my vocal nature. But this man, he's not angry necessarily, but he's getting the job done. So I sort of exist in that anger place in myself. So he's got a nice, raspy, gritty voice. You know what I mean?
Love it.
Ivar from Predator Killers. Obviously, Ivar. He's very, he's got this kind of deep Viking voice, Ivar. So I do a lot of like gritty characters as well. But I also enjoy doing. I did Peeves. Peeves was the ghost in Harry Potter. That the Harry and his team kind of.
Yeah.
And Peeves is crazy. He's quite a character. He's up here. He's flamboyant. He's very old and slightly twisted. And then, in other games I played Wizards, like Throne of Liberty, I got to play in Throne of Liberty I got to play this amazing character called Kamir, or who was also called Canary, who's like a thief, one of the heads of the thief guild, who kind of gives you various missions. And Canaries, he's a Scotsman, he's a wee dwarf, and he's absolutely insane. So he'll give you a wee drink, but then he might take your front teeth as well. So I love doing accents. I love doing these characters that are different. It makes makes me excited. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it, dude.
I like how animated you are when you're doing it. Well,
when I record a lot, I think there's 2 types of voice actors. There's the voice actors who sit down in a chair and they do it. And it might be a high stool. They're not necessarily sitting down because it's not good for your breath work to like have your stomach crunched up like that. But a lot of actors, they go into the booth, they sit on the tall chair and they kind of, I don't do that. I act because my background is on camera and stage acting. So for me, I have to move. I have to gesticulate. I have to move my face. If I'm doing like an angry orc in Total War Warhammer, I did a bunch of orc war bosses. These humies, it's important I make my face look as disgusting as possible. Because if I'm going to be an orc boss, like I like to do that because then I'm it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm just trying to do my normal face and stand still, I don't think it lends itself to the character properly. Is my personal thought.
Love it. All right. So do you have you've been had very successful voiceover career. Do you have certain goals when it comes to animation or voiceover? Is there something like you would like to be in a Pixar movie is there anything?
I'd love to be in a Pixar movie. Okay. In fact, my friend, shout out to Brad Garrett. I'm sure the incredibly talented comedian and actor from hit show Everybody Loves Raymond. But he's just done a new Pixar movie, and I saw that, and I was like celebrating him. He's so talented. He's got such a unique voice and such a warm and like the timbre of his voice is so gorgeous. Like, I would put him in everything if I could. But yeah, I saw him do that and I was like, I really want to be in a Pixar movie too one day. You know, I'd love to join my friend Brad in something. So yes, being in a Pixar movie would be incredible. For Disney, I did Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, but I would love to be in some Disney projects as well. In fact, you know, being in something like an ongoing Star Wars animated series would be definitely one of the top of my list. You know, that'd be something I'd love to do. And then there's just a lot of video games or video games companies that I have played their games for decades that I would love to be a bigger part of. For instance, I've done now at this point, I think I've done 4 separate Warhammer 40,000 video games. Some of them I played the lead character. So Warhammer 40,000 Battle Sector, I played Sergeant Carleon, who becomes Lieutenant Carleon, and he's like literally the main character. So you hear him talking at length throughout the entire video game. I would really love to be in the animated series Astartes. There's a Warhammer 40k animated series that was started by a fan. The first episode was made on YouTube by a fan, and Games Workshop loved it so much. They said, hey, we're going to give you some funding. We're going to give you some studio kind of setup to create a series from this. And he's now on his, I think it's the 3rd series of that show. So I would love to be involved in Warhammer 40,000 Astartes, you know, that online series as well. Just because I'm a massive geek for the Warhammer franchise. You know, it's a huge part of my childhood and my adulthood. And I don't mind embracing my nerdiness. Other things that I would love to do. I'm a huge Dungeons and Dragons nerd as well. So Critical Role, I don't know if you've ever heard of Critical Role, but it started out as an online stream of Dungeons and Dragons broadcast where all of these actors like Matthew Mercer, Troy Baker, all of these big names get to play all these different characters. And I would love to be part of that because 1, it would feed the D&D nerd in me, but 2, I know I'd get to do a ridiculous voice, a big character, something flamboyant and fabulous. Yeah, those
awesome.
are probably some of the goals.
Well, I like that you're very specific about your goals and there's things that you want. And it's refreshing for people to say, I want to do something. So like, oh, no, I'm happy. You know, like, yeah, there's some things, but, you know, sometimes people's egos, like they don't want to be vulnerable and say, I'd like to do this. These are my goals. This is what I'm looking for. Or they want to keep it close. I
killed my ego years ago, man. I did therapy in sobriety and at least one big psilocybin medicinal trip has helped me to understand that I am nothing. We're all just dust floating in an endless cosmos of dust. And that means that, you know, I realize I have a limited time on this planet in this vessel that I'm walking around in, and I want to do the most creative things I can do. So, yeah, I've got no shame in putting myself forward for things or talking about the projects I want to be a part of. But also there is no ego tied to it because I realize, look, you're either going to get the role, you're not. And if you don't get it, it's not a personal jab. It's not happening to you. That's just you weren't right for that particular character. And that's okay. You'll be right for something else. And that kind of mentality has carried me through pretty well, I think, in my career thus far. That people at least enjoy working with me, certainly. But also every time I go in the studio, I am deeply grateful for what I'm doing. And that translates in my performance. It's the same with stand-up. Every time I walk on stage now, I did have a few years. I won't deny there were a few years. I was talking about this on a radio show a few months ago. They asked how I keep myself up. I had a few years where the successes I had enjoyed meant that my mindset had started to shift towards what the industry in general tries to create within the minds of actors and performers, which is, what's your next job? You're only as good as your last job. You got to make sure you're doing this. If you're not moving up, how many numbers have you got? You know, so many people are booked these days based on their social media followings, which is insanity. It should be about creativity and performance ability, but it's not always like that, as we know, for productions to succeed. So, so it's worrying about the wrong things, man. And as soon as I did my therapy, took my shrooms, understood I was nothing, went, hey, why do I do this? Because I love it and it's creative and it makes people happy to watch these TV shows or these films or to play these video games or to come and see me do stand-up. I realized that I have deep, deep gratitude for what I get to do as a creative for a living. I've never had to get like a 9-to-5 normal job since I was about early 20s, 21 or so. I've always worked in entertainment. And that gratitude has now meant that I have been fortunate enough to garner even more success because audiences see me walk on stage or hear me coming into the video game or see me coming on screen. And they can tell this guy's super passionate about what he does. He's really grateful to be here. And and that builds an audience, that builds a fan base, which I'm very, very grateful for as well.
Absolutely. I mean, getting to hear you, I've seen some of your clips and some of your work, but just talking to you, I mean, it's infectious. Your positive attitude and just passion. Passion is such a big deal. We have interns all the time that come through the morning show and, they're excited on day one, but then 3 weeks in of getting up at, for us, we get up at 3:30 in the morning, but they get up at 6, then they're not, but then the ones who are passionate, oh, wow, now they have a career in broadcasting.
And I've done that, bro. I've been that intern. I've made those cups of coffee. I've made those cups of tea. I've done the photocopying. I think that's a big difference too. There's a lot of people in the industry, certainly over here in Hollywood. There's a split in the industry. There's half of the people with like work, and half of them, they know someone. Their parents are famous. There's a bit of nepotism. There's a little bit of opportunity that comes their way. I think I'm always drawn to these people that really had to work to get to where they go, because until you scrub the toilets, how can you enjoy sitting on the pot? You know what I mean? That's how I look at it. So yes, that's really important to me. Always has been, and it always will be.
All right. So you mentioned that you like to nerd out. So I'm just going to read the text from the person. I'll just say it. They built our website for our podcast and are doing some infrastructure things behind the scenes and all of our graphics. It's a husband-wife duo, but they're a huge fan of yours, specifically with Call of Duty and other games. But just bear with me. He says, in a nutshell, because I said, what was your question again? Because he told me off the air, and I was like, I don't know if I understood it. But he says, will we ever see Ghost 2 or another Ghost-centered title on the horizon? He said, if there is, maybe he can't say, but he says, he goes, I'd love to have the question the mix because of controversial as the original title was due to business politics. The Ghost character is beloved in the community. His story was just featured in season 4 DLC disc. I'm not sure what that says for in the current game just recently, and is a huge part of the current game storyline. So I know there won't be a ghost, but a ghost as in the character title game. Rumors are
unfortunately. I'm going to be useless when it comes to this. So there have been 3 ghost actors over the course of the franchise. Craig Fairbrass, myself, and Sam Rukin. I walked away from that role 2 games ago. So if there is anything happening, I wouldn't know. And that probably is a good question for Sam, I imagine, as he's the latest iteration. But I hope there is. I mean, it's a fascinating character, and I wish them luck with whatever they do with them.
Sure. Yeah. And that was Jen and Wade. I'm sorry. I totally butchered that. Even when I was reading, I'm like, what am I saying? All right. So, all right, stand up. Let's move to stand up. And before we get you out of here, obviously you moved to the States, 7-8 years ago?
Correct. Yeah. I think it was about 9 years ago now, actually. There's a venue in New York City, the Comedy Cellar, which is, I refer to it as the Studio 54 of stand-up comedy, because it really is the who's who of everyone who is a huge, successful touring comedian. I'm talking like either headliners at clubs like myself, or theaters, or even the people who sell out stadiums all over the world. That's their club that they go to try new jokes out or do their material on a Tuesday night. So you get Dave Chappelle in there, Amy Schumer, Dave Attell, Pete Lee, all huge names from the industry down there on a Monday, a Tuesday, or Wednesday. And that's where I cut my teeth. They helped bring me to America 9 years ago. I enjoyed the first 4.5 years of stand-up in New York City, working at all of the best clubs out there, including New York Comedy Club, the Stand Up New York. And then I moved to Los Angeles about 5 years ago.
So let me ask you 2 questions. Your background, who were your influences growing up that made you say, hey, I want to do that? Because stand-up is hard. Stand-up is very hard.
Yeah. George Carlin, of course.
Okay.
Greg Giraldo would be one of my Greg Giraldo should have and would have been one of the most successful comedians in the world. Everyone should have known his name. If you watch the comedy roast, the old school roast, then you'll know Greg Giraldo from the roast. He was the funniest part of those roasts.
100%. He would have been he probably would have been the head. I mean, Nikki Glaser killed at the Tom Brady roast, but Giraldo would have. He's so clippable with his brand of stand-up. I love him.
Giraldo writes all of his own jokes. Every single one, and he was a brilliantly intelligent and deeply conflicted man, which I can relate to both of both of those things. I'm intelligent. No, sorry, I can relate to someone like, let's put it into perspective. Geraldo was Harvard. He went to like Harvard to study law. He was a practicing lawyer. When he gave that up, he hated the commercial world. He's like, I don't. Why am I doing this? Started doing some stand up. Immediately flourished within it. He was such a savant of the craft. But unfortunately, like I say, conflicted. Ended up succumbing to a relapse with his addictions, and unfortunately was taken from us way too early. But Geraldo, I absolutely adore him so much. And George Carlin, of course, Richard Pryor. I love Jim Carrey. I love Robin Williams. I love big characters who can, on a dime, flip between 500 different characterizations and act outs in their performances, because I do a lot of that. I create lots of voices. I recreate the stories that I'm telling that are true from my personal life. I recreate the characters, the voices, the act outs, and I'm sort of drawn to those different characters. Joan Rivers was one of my legends as well. I had tickets to go and see her, man. I was going to meet her at this big stadium show in the UK, and then she passed away, unfortunately, just a few months before it. So I didn't get the opportunity to ever, shake her hand and tell her how influential she was in my own stand-up. But yeah, there's some brilliant stand-up comedians working today as well, who I'm very fortunate to be friends with, and I'm very grateful.
Who are some of your peers that you really you enjoy their comedy?
I mentioned Pete Lee. I think Pete Lee is incredible. You might have seen him on Fallon. He's on there like every other week, it feels like, at the moment. He's done so many Fallon appearances. Pete Lee is absolutely mind-blowing. Ida Rodriguez, if you've never seen Ida Rodriguez, she's got a bunch of specials on HBO, Netflix. She's a very established stand-up, but she's also, a lot of people don't know, she's like an incredible writer, and she's so eloquent. She's so bright and eloquent, and manages to talk about really big issues from the world of politics, from the world of social climate, but without making you feel judged, without making anyone feel demonized. She's so brilliant. So Ida Rodriguez, Gina Yashere, the creator, scriptwriter, and one of the actors and one of the producers with Chuck Lorre of Bob Hart's Abishola, that ran for like 5 seasons on HBO. She's an incredible stand-up. She really paved the way, I think, for a lot of British comedians who wanted to come out here. She hit a glass ceiling in the UK, as did I. You hit a place where you go, where can I really go beyond here? And she moved to America, and she was one of the first to do that, and to have the we were talking about balls earlier on, and while she physically does not own any, she most certainly has a metaphorical pair that are huge, because she packed up her career in the UK. She moved out to the States and rebuilt over here. And, like I say, she's had 5 seasons of a hit show that she produced, wrote, and starred in with Chuck Lorre. And now she's in Star Trek, the brand new Star Trek show as well. And she's so she's a mind-blowing talent as well, Gina Yashere. I like hearing voices that are different to mine. I like hearing from an African British lesbian woman. I don't know what it's like to be, an African British lesbian woman. So her stories are so funny, but then there's so much of her that's so personable to me that really speaks to me. Brad Garrett is an absolute legend. I get to perform with him at his club out in Vegas, and that man is relentless. He's a very loving and a very kind soul who wants equality for all people and very progressive. But when you see him on stage, he's he goes for the jugular for everyone. He kind of highlights this character that you might have seen on, Everybody Loves Raymond. I absolutely adore that.
And he's one of the rare comedians or actors that would be taller than you, right? He's 6'7"?
He's like 6'6" or 6'7". He's a giant man. Yeah. And then other guys who are blowing up right now, Morgan J is a buddy of mine, and we came up together a little bit in the LA scene. We were both doing smaller shows with each other, and getting our spot pay of $100 here and there. And now he's selling out stadiums and selling out huge theaters, 10,000 seat theaters all over the world, worldwide. And he blew up because he was doing some auto-tune clips on TikTok. And that blew up. And now his special has had a re-release on a major platform. So I'm really happy to see good people thrive and succeeding. And the last name, who's very important to me, is Jenny Zagrino. If you've never seen her, fantastic stand-up. Really, really very passionate, very loving, such a sweet soul. She's obviously an actor as well. She was in MTV Girl Code. She was in Bad Bitches of History on Comedy Central. She's one of the writers on that. She was in Bad Santa 2. Do you remember with Billy Bob Thornton?
Oh yeah.
She was a sexy security guard who had little backdoor action with Billy Bob Thornton, you know?
Right.
Which is why every guy messages her now, like, peg me, mummy. But she's not just a brilliant stand-up, she's also an incredible writer and actress. And actually, she is one of my writing partners. And we've written a bunch of great scripts together. So I can't laud her enough, you know, with praise, because I love her that much. We've started creating work together. You know, that's how much I respect her.
Love it. Well, we appreciate your time. You know, you got Predator, Killer of Killers out on Hulu. They came out last Friday. You've got some exciting
still trending #1, baby, worldwide on Hulu as well.
#1. I mean, how awesome! That's awesome.
The Rotten Tomatoes score was 90. Let me have a look and see if it's gone down at all, because you know these things dip after a while. But it was 98% on Rotten Tomatoes when it first came out. We're still at 95%. That's wild. That's the highest rated Predator movie that's ever come out as well. And 95% on Rotten Tomatoes is pretty exceptional. So please check that out. It's on Hulu right now.
Watch it for sure.
End of the month, Death Stranding 2 with Hideo Kojima and Norman Reedus coming out, I think June 26th. And I play Pierre Southern in that one as well. So if you're a gamer, there's something for you coming up.
And then you'll be in Vegas at the end of July or mid-July.
Correct. Mid-July, I'm doing a week at the Comedy Cellar, headlining out there. Then in August, I'm back for another week headlining at Brad Garrett's Comedy Club. So yeah, come and check me out in Las Vegas. I'll be at West Covina Laugh Factory at the very beginning of July for a little residency out there for 4 nights. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I believe it's over the July 4th weekend, actually. So the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So if you're in West Covina, come out and see me at the Laugh Factory, and we'll have some laughs.
Well, you're extremely talented. It's jeffleach.com, correct? If people want more information, jeffleach.com.
No, jeffleach.com is a very hateful Texas governor who allegedly now is in some kind of trouble for allegedly possibly bribing someone. I'm not sure what's going on.
Jeffrey Leach.
JeffreyLeach.com is the website. I mean, you can go to his website as well and go and have a little read. It's probably comedy over there too. But JeffreyLeach.com is my website. At Jeff Leach, JEFFLEACH is my social handle on TikTok. If you want to come across there and watch some stand-up, come and do that. Or Instagram. Yeah. See a bit more of my personal life.
And I have your website pulled up. I said the wrong thing. Jeffrey Leach. And it's funny because when I first was looking for your IMDb, you're right. There's some congressperson. I was like, that's not him.
That's not me. No. I'm staying away from politics. Terrifying place. I was just stick to stand up.
Yeah, I think, you know, this day and time, people just want to laugh. I mean, there's obviously a niche for that, but super talented. I think continued success. And when you get that Pixar movie or these things you're writing now, or
come back on, man.
No, I'm glad you said it. You probably won't, but I appreciate it. No,
I got time, dude. I've always got an hour for people. I love talking to people. It's fun.
No, you're great at it. And seriously, I can tell, you know, I've talked to so many people over the years with my morning show and different things. Like, you definitely have what it takes. You've already had a lot of success, but I'm happy for you. And I can't wait to see you either, whatever your next thing is. You have your 10,000 seaters doing stand-up, or that
I hope so. That would be lovely.
Or maybe in a movie as a 6'4" nerdy guy, whatever you got, you know, I can see it happen, whatever.
I can pull it off. I've got range, darling. I've trodden the boards. Jared, You're so lovely. Thank you very much for taking time, man. I appreciate you talking to me today.
Thanks, Jeff. Seriously, appreciate it.
All right. Have a lovely day. See you later.
You too. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.